Hi, I'm Nico. Welcome back to the channel. Portraits are by far my favorite part of photography. There is nothing I like more than having a person sit or stand in front of my camera, even for a few seconds, and collaborate on creating an image that says something about them, about me, about the both of us and the world at large. In 2020, when we were advised to stay home and avoid contact with others, to socially distance as much as possible, I knew that it was more important than ever for me to continue taking portraits. And I started a little bit of a project or a formal practice of taking portraits of people with my Hasselblad 503 CW. My philosophy when choosing and using gear is specific tools for specific jobs. I am not looking for a silver bullet camera that could do everything. For example, I believe that small format cameras, and especially Leicas, are extremely well suited for street photography or handheld documentary work. I believe that large format has no rivals when it comes to still life, product photography, or even landscape. And I believe that for portraits, the Hasselblad 500 series is the god tier of cameras. It's the best camera I can think of for portraits. But what lens do you want to use to take portraits with your Hasselblad 500 series? For me, there's two obvious choices, is the 180 and the 150 f4 Sonnar lenses by Carl Zeiss. 120 is also very popular, but to me it's a bit too wide for close-ups and headshots. And there's a 250mm or a 500mm, maybe a 300mm too, but to me these are too big, too long, too expensive, too heavy. These two lenses are by far the practical, reasonable options. They are very close. Those lenses are both CF series from the 80s, same aperture of f4, a very close focal length, same design. The main difference is that this one is 200 gram heavier. It's 1 kilogram, 1000 grams. This one is 800 grams. 200 grams might sound like a lot, but in the Hasselblad world, a film bag, for example, weighs 400 grams, and you often have 2 or 3 of those in your bag. So 200 more or less might be a lot for some, but in the scope of a Hasselblad kit, it's not a big difference. In practice, I have never found a difference between those lenses. The limiting factor was always me and my mediocre skills as a photographer. Several times I tried to shoot the same subject under the same conditions with each of these lenses. Every time I failed to get the maximum sharpness out of one of the two. Either my tripod was a bit too flimsy for the 180, or I had left the 150mm in bulb and thus got a blurry picture, or the room was a bit too dark and I failed to focus correctly one of the lenses. I've had 3 or 4 test shoots with the intention of comparing these two lenses, and I have no direct comparison image to show for it. Over the few weeks that this saga has been going on, I also compared the minimum focusing distance and the enlarging factor. There is a slight edge for the 180mm, but it's really not a big difference. Once you mount a 32mm extension ring to either lens, they get even closer. And there's still a slightest edge for the 180, but at this level I don't think it really matters. We can talk about the mojo of these lenses. This lens is the modern one. It was introduced in the 80s as a CF version, and the published MTF curves were better, so it has the reputation of being a sharper, more modern lens. Once again, I have not noticed, but that's the reputation. This lens has a lot of vintage mojo. It was one of the lenses used by NASA on the Apollo missions. So when you hear about the connection between Hasselblad and space exploration, this 150mm Sonnar is a huge pillar of that reputation. I think it was the most used lens, focal length in space by NASA. So which one should you get? I think it really doesn't matter. If you are really confident in your ability as a photographer, you're using the best, heaviest tripods, you're always using a keyboard release, and you know that you can get all the resolution a lens can offer, then maybe go for the 180 and you might be able to see an edge in your pictures. If you're more concerned about practicality, having the lightest possible gear, maybe a lens that feels a bit better on the camera for hand holding, definitely go for the 150. You'll have nothing to regret. Me personally, I now own both, and I don't think I'll be selling one because I'm a fool, but I have a preference for the 150mm. The focal length is just right, it's a sweet spot for me, it gets me exactly at the distance where I like to be from the model, and it's lighter, nicer lens. That was it for this very exciting comparison of Hasselblad lenses. I have one more video planned on Hasselblad lenses, and then we'll move on to a different topic. Thank you for tuning in, and have a great day. Cheers.